Thank you guys for being here. I'm Lindsey Riddle and this is Jamie Conway, and we are founders of Nourished Foods Coaching. We coach and consult people with food allergies, sensitivities, or just habits who are seeking a change in how they eat, think, and feel. So Jamie and I are both certified integrative health coaches. We received our training in dietary, lifestyle, and wellness coaching from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and are also board certified by the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. We're here today basically to show you how to incorporate raw fruits and vegetables in a way that is refreshing, delicious, but also nutritious. And we're going to be talking about Summer Gazpacho. So how many of you guys, are you guys familiar with gazpacho? Okay, so it's a dish that originated in Spain, and it's also used in Mediterranean cultures, but it's really popular because of its ease of preparation and then also because of its cooling effects on the body in the hot climate. Traditionally, gazpacho is made using only 6 ingredients, which was tomatoes, cucumbers, red bell pepper, olive oil, salt, and pepper. So very easy to make, but we're going to put a fresh spin on this and do a watermelon gazpacho today. So we're going to show you all how to prepare the vegetables and also highlight some of the nutritional information that makes this just overall good dish. So before we get started, we'll jump into what you need. So one of the, like I said, the ease of preparation is one of the highlights of this dish. Especially in summer, you don't want to be slaving away in the hot, hot kitchen. So I'll hand it over to Jamie and have him talk about the equipment.
So all we'll be using to make this today is just a knife, and we'll be using a blender to blend up some of the watermelon. And that's really all we need, other than a bowl and a spoon. So it's real simple, and real quick and easy.
Little cleanup. So that's always a perk too. Let's go ahead and talk about the ingredients that we're going to be using, and we'll highlight some of the nutrition information about it as well.
So the main ingredient in this summer gazpacho is watermelon, which, as you know, in late summer, watermelon are easy to find, and they're full of water to help keep you hydrated, full of nutrients and enzymes, which is pretty much the case with all the vegetables that we'll be using in the soup. Using an heirloom tomato, and heirlooms are usually a lot more flavorful than other varieties. This is why we went with the heirloom. Jalapeno pepper for a little spice.
Just a little.
The sweetness in the watermelon balances out the spiciness of the jalapeno. And for that little bit of acidic flavor, we use a lime. Green onion, cilantro, and mint are the remaining ingredients we'll be adding in.
We're also going to add a little bit of olive oil. With all of our recipes, and really any recipe in general, we try to aim for a flavor profile that includes a fat, an acid, a salt, and a sweet. So really, with any recipe, as long as you have those profiles, you're going to have a balanced recipe. Do you want to point out which is which in our ingredient list?
Yeah, so the fat is obviously the olive oil, and we go for the unrefined olive oils. So the least refined the fat, the healthier it is for you.
I would say that this is a great example of what we would look for, because the glass is more amber colored rather than clear, so it's not allowing as much sunlight in. Anytime you have a clear bottle that you're storing your olive oil, or any oil in for that matter, you risk oxidation. You risk it becoming rancid more quickly. So this is a great example of a bottle that you would want to look for.
The acid in this case is the lime. The sweet is the watermelon. And then we'll be adding some sea salt at the end.
So like Jamie was saying, one of the benefits of using raw foods is that you aren't exposing it to high temperatures, so you're keeping the water content intact, as well as the vitamins and the minerals. So in summer, it's very easy for us to become overly dehydrated and not really be aware of it. In fact, most people are walking around with some level of dehydration. So when you can get that extra water from the foods that you're eating, and not only get the water, but also the fiber, the vitamins, the minerals, you're just preparing yourself, you're helping your body out with the excessive amount of water that it's losing in the summertime. So that's just one benefit of trying to prepare or add in as many raw foods as possible. Another nutrition highlight of gazpacho is that it highlights the concept of synergy or teamwork, meaning the combined health benefits of all of its ingredients are greater than any one of its ingredients. So the vegetables sort of team up together to help one another out. So what I mean by that is you take a tomato, and I'm sure that most of you know that tomatoes are very rich in the antioxidant lycopene. Lycopene is an antioxidant that is better absorbed by the body with the presence of fat. So we get that fat from the olive oil. So they're teaming up together to make it more absorbable by our body. Does that make sense? Okay. And research also just suggests that when you're consuming a combination of antioxidants rather than just one, you're getting kind of a nutrition overload, so to speak. So more reasons to add in more raw foods and vegetables. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started for preparing.
Just going to start with the lime. So for this recipe, I'm just going to use half of a lime. And we're going to toss this into the bowl. So this is a great tool to use for a lime to juice citrus. Just a little reamer.
Or any citrus press will do.
Yeah, you don't have to use one of these, but they're just fun to use.
Do you want to show how to do it if you don't have the reamer? A little trick.
If you don't have a reamer, use this. You can make a little slit in the lime, just about 1/4 of an inch down, and thanks. You can actually put this on the back of the knife, squeeze, and let the juice run down the knife blade. If you do it right, like if you use a lemon with big seeds, the seeds will fall straight down and the juice will run down your knife into the cup. But limes usually don't have big seeds, so it's less important.
Yeah.
Next, jalapeno. Just gonna use, this is a pretty good size one, so I'm just gonna use half. I'll just cut off the top. And I'm just gonna slice around the seeds.
It's really important to remove the seeds if you're not looking for a lot of kick. Just one seed can really burst up the heat.
So the way I will mince the jalapenos is slice these into long strips. And once you have the long strips, you can turn it sideways and chop into small squares. Notice when I chop, I have my fingers curled under, so the knife is going against my knuckles.
I would say too, the size of the vegetable or the size of the cut, it really depends on your preference. So if you prefer larger chunks in your soup, that's just fine. There's really no one right way or another. Would you say that's pretty true?
It's definitely true.
Okay.
And if you do want to mince a jalapeno finer, you can grab your knife like this and just run it across one more time.
Try to get this out of the way.
Then to pick it up, I'll just run the knife underneath it. Just toss it in.
Do you guys have any questions about that? Okay.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Next is a tomato. Most gazpacho recipes will call for you to peel the tomatoes, and that's usually accomplished by flash boiling the tomato, pulling it out, and then you can just peel the skin right off. In order to do that raw, it's generally easier to just slice it into a wedge. If your knife is sharp enough, you can slice off the skin. So just by rolling the skin against the cutting board,
Keeping that knife as parallel as possible to the cutting board.
yeah, you can just slice it off. That way you're not boiling the tomato and damaging any of the enzymes or nutrients that are in the tomato.
A lot of people say that tomatoes are the one exception because when you cook them, you increase the lycopene or the concentrate in them. But there have been studies that have shown that just by simply processing the tomato and breaking down its cell wall activates that lycopene. So it's still enhancing it. Maybe not as much as you would with cooking, but it's still being activated and it's still available for your body.
While I chop this, do you want to demonstrate bell pepper?
Sure. So with the bell pepper, we're going to follow the same instructions that we did with the jalapeno, just cutting away from the seeds. So I do that just by cutting off the four corners. With bell peppers, usually we'll have that sort of rough edge in the center, or the rough middle part, which can be a little bit bitter or lend a bitter flavor to the recipe. So by doing that, we're going to follow the same cut that we did with the tomato by sort of filleting it, so to speak, so that we can remove that bitterness and get to the juicy part of the fruit. So the key for me, can you guys see this okay? Okay. The key is to just make sure that you've got it at the back of your cutting board and that you're manipulating the vegetable, pressing it down and getting very close. Do you see how I've done that there? Then just sort of keeping your knife parallel. To get this off. And you see, I don't know if you see, but you see how it's much more juicy than it is without that white area. So I'm just going to clean that up a little bit. And then just like Jamie did, cutting it into strips. And then my cutting board's moving a little bit. So, see how that's done? Okay. Then we just add it to the bowl. And we really went with, you can use any tomato or any bell pepper, but we think that there's something fun too about making food aesthetically pleasing as well. So trying to add a rainbow of colors, that's why we went with the yellow bell pepper. So we're just going to finish chopping this up. If you want me to chop those and you move on to the watermelon, that's fine. If you have leftover scraps from your vegetables, it's really great to juice if you're into juicing. You can save the tops from the bell peppers. You can remove the seeds and throw that in the juicer. Are you familiar with juicing? So we always try to save as much as possible.
I'll go ahead and start on the watermelon. So I'll start by chopping the watermelon in half. For this recipe, we'll only use 3 or 4 cups of watermelon. So I'll stick with about half. So I'll start by just cutting off the rind. All right. You do want to try to get all the white part off.
It's very bitter as well. Anything white's going to have a bitter flavor on your vegetable.
So I'll do this. It's largely the same process. I'll cut it into sheets and turn it and cut it into strips and then dice it. So the good thing about watermelon is it is very easy to cut. And it's very juicy.
It's like 98% water content by weight, so very, very hydrating.
I'm not worried about any of the seeds right now. When I get it into the smaller pieces, the seeds will just fall out. All right, so now we have all this here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna blend some of this, or 2/3 of what we use. So it'll be the liquid base of the soup. And we'll leave about 1/3 of this, just as this size of a dice. So we actually have something to bite into. So I'll go ahead and scoop some of this into the bowl, minus the seeds. And the rest I'll put into the blender. So I'm just going for about 2 cups in the blender. And the good thing about if you have a Vitamix, it will blend up the seeds. It'll blend up just about anything you put in it. And there's certainly no harm in blending a few seeds with your watermelon. Just like that. It's my spoon. Just give it a stir.
Do you want to do the onion?
Yes.
So on top of all the vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that we have in here, we also have garlic and onion, which is a phytonutrient. Both of them are very strong cancer-fighting foods. So antiviral, antimicrobial, antibacterial. With garlic, we're not adding garlic today, but if you did decide to use fresh garlic, when you cut it ahead of time, when you cut your garlic before going on to preparing the recipe and allow it to sit, you actually allow the sulfuric compounds to be released and become more potent.
For the green onion, I'm just gonna use the white part and about 1 inch or 2 of the green. Just gonna slice it diagonally. Stir. And the cilantro, I'm gonna go ahead and add this.
Do you guys use fresh cilantro often? A lot of people are surprised to know that they can use fresh cilantro. They think that it just comes in the dried herb form. It's funny.
So usually to save time, instead of peeling off each leaf, I'll just rip off the big parts of the stems. Then I'll just give this a once through.
Cilantro and parsley are very detoxifying and cleansing herbs. They're known to chelate with heavy toxins in the body and pull them out. So they help get rid of waste, help you sort of detoxify any toxins that come with daily living. So adding them to a recipe fresh as much as possible is really going to help that process along. When you add fiber to the mix, through the vitamins and the minerals, you've got just a really strong detoxifying food that's not only healthy, but delicious.
It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So we've added the cilantro and the green onion.
We're gonna add the salt and pepper, or are we gonna do that last?
Do that last.
Okay, so we're gonna add a little bit of a garnish, and we're gonna be using mint because, like I said, it really kind of helps. It's just really complementary to the watermelon. Or if you were to use cucumber, it's really complementary for that as well. So much like Jamie just pulled the leaves off of the stem, that's what I'm gonna do if I can with this. Sometimes it's a little bit, it's not gonna come off. So I'm just gonna peel a couple of leaves off. So you wanna try to keep them in their whole form because we're going to be cutting them using a technique called chiffonade. Have you guys heard of chiffonade before? Have you heard of it? Okay, so I'll make sure you can see it. So what you wanna do, and this is really, again, just for garnish, getting a whole mouthful of leaf or of mint leaf is not really pleasant. So cutting it into tiny pieces helps add the flavor, but not get a weird texture. So what I'm doing here is I'm laying each of the mint leaves on top of one another and then tightly rolling them so that you have this. This helps to prevent bruising of the leaf. Rather than just chopping it like Jamie did with the cilantro, these are more apt to bruise. So if you want to keep it as green as possible, just roll it and then finely cut along the roll.
Just gonna use a couple of teaspoons of olive oil.
It's really based on your preference. Adding any fat is recommended because, like we said, it helps your body absorb the antioxidants more readily.
Just gonna give a couple shakes of salt. Stir.
But the key is to just experiment and use that flavor profile and keep the vegetables as raw as possible, because when you're using raw foods, you're ensuring, again, that those enzymes are intact. Digestive enzymes, which what our bodies need to digest all of the food that we put into our body and absorb the vitamins and minerals, are very heat sensitive. So the more processed they become, the more you lose enzymes in food. The more you lose in food, the more your body has to work, and therefore you're losing energy. So this is helping, this is essentially, just equipped with the enzymes that you need so that you're not going to be feeling lethargic after a meal. You're going to feel more energized because your body isn't having to work as hard. So that's what we have for you all. If you don't have any questions, I hope that you enjoyed. And
Yes, thank you very much.
good. All right. Well, thank you guys.
That's it.